Growing up just on the east side of Chicago O'Hare International Airport, my father would occasionally drive me out there to watch airplanes. I was only 10 years old, and it was 1982. But there was a mysterious airplane that just sat there. It never moved. Its paint was faded, and it looked abandoned. When I asked my dad what it was, he said it was a de Havilland Comet 4C. I wondered how anyone could just abandon a giant jet airplane. Years later, I would find that this was Comet 4C, manufacturer number 06425. It first flew on March 12, 1959, and was delivered to Mexicana, registered XA-NAS. This footage, obtained by Edward Schelleron, shows XA-NAS being flown by famous de Havilland test pilot and World War II ace John Cunningham. This extremely rare footage is quite amazing, showing how the airplane looked in 1959. Mexicana flew the airplane from 1960 to 1970 on routes between Mexico City, Los Angeles, and Chicago. See details of the Comet 1 project and make a donation at derelict.com. After being traded to the Boeing Company, it was repainted and purchased by Washington-based Western Air in 1973 and flown to Albuquerque, New Mexico, registered as N999WA. But plans to fly it in Western Air's charter operation did not materialize. By 1976, the unused Comet was sold to Dick Drost, who owned a nudist colony in Indiana. A crew was found, and the airplane was ferried on its final flight from Albuquerque to Chicago O'Hare. But by 1979, bills had gone unpaid, and the city of Chicago towed the abandoned aircraft to the old Air National Guard hardstand off the end of runway 32 right. That's where the story starts. Now, at age 13, in 1985, I had been viewing this comet from the roadside for several years. I wanted to see it up close, but with no family contacts in the aviation industry, and no desire to scale barbed wire fences, I could only view the comet from the road. That was until I discovered that the Civil Air Patrol, or CAP, a youth organization which is the official auxiliary of the United States Air Force, held their weekly meetings at the old Black Alert hangars where the comet was parked. That was it. I knew I needed to join the CAP to get near the comet. It was a typical hot July night in 1985, and I'll never forget being cleared onto the airport property by Air National Guard personnel. My dad driving us on the Air Force roadway, the big black hangars looming in the distance. Then we turned the corner, around the hangar, and there it was. What an amazing sight. It was around 90 degrees outside. The crickets and cicadas were making their noise. The jets were launching off runway 32 right, just hundreds of feet away. And I could make out such a unique scent of oil, jet fuel, asphalt, and metal as the comet set in the hot setting sun. The tarmac was broken and cracked, with weeds growing up through them. Bird droppings were all over the airplane. The ship's metal was dulled and pitted, showing streaks of paint that had faded during the previous 9 years of sitting through Chicago's harsh summers and winters. Several emergency hatches had been left open. The landing gear struts were deflated, and the tires were flat. Areas of rust were present where steel fasteners were used on the wing and other structures. In some places, the aluminum skin was so badly corroded that one could press their thumb right through the metal. Walking around the derelict Comet was like walking into another world. What a beautiful machine, yet abandoned, uncared for, thrown away like yesterday's trash. And that was my introduction to the O'Hare Comet. For the next several years, I'd spend every Tuesday at the CAP meetings out there at the old alert hangars, walking around this big, beautiful, yet dilapidating comet. I wondered what would happen to it. The next video will explain all that. Thanks for watching.
If you like this video, please make a donation at
dehavillandcomet.com so we can continue funding the Comet project.